but sees herself as invisible and doesn't have a voice because it wasn't safe.
Yeah.
And there's lots of these kinds of belief system. Imposter syndrome. I'm seeing this all over the internet. Everybody wants to talk to you about imposter syndrome.
Oh, I see.
And who has it? Well, only successful people have imposter syndrome. Unsuccessful people don't think they're imposters at all. Right? And you're laughing. And isn't that funny that someone who has built a track record of success up and up and up thinks that they're a fraud?
Welcome to the Manage Self, Lead Others Leadership podcast with Nina Sunday for experienced and aspiring people managers. This show will help you explore ways to become a more intentional leader. Each episode, host Nina Sunday speaks with some of the brightest business minds on the planet who share a passion to elevate and transform team culture. Are you ready? Because it's time to manage self, lead others.
This episode, I'm speaking again with thought leader and visionary Dan Silberberg. With a distinguished track record leading Fortune 500 businesses from 7 million to 400 million, launching 4 startups, leading a global brand revitalization in 100 countries, and having trained in McKinsey methodologies, Dan has a consulting background with EDS and A.T. Kearney, and as managing director at Oracle Corporation, he led the go-to-market strategy. Now with a master's degree in leadership and coaching, Dan announced dates for his Leader Council and other programs to grow the next generation of leaders. My past podcast conversations with Dan are now videos on his website, entelechy.ai, entelechy.ai. Go to the Inspirations tab. Then head to the Call tab to sign up for Dan's newsletter. When you register for one of Dan's programs, you can mention Nina Sunday referred you. As members of the US-based C-Suite network, I got to know Dan over the last 3 years. I'm impressed by his integrity, sharp insights, and independent thinking. This episode, it's my privilege to welcome my good friend, Dan Silberberg.
Okay, so the idea of unmasking leadership is unmasking who you really are, right? And so I have this theory that we are basically an operating system. Human beings are an operating system. So when we're born, we come in as sentient beings. And so we sense and feel the world around us. Our brains are not developed yet. We don't really have an analytical mind. So in the early stage, it's about survival. So if we're not warm, that's a problem. If we're crying and mom doesn't come or primary caregiver doesn't come and feed us, the world tends to be we sense the world isn't paying attention to us. If we need our diaper changed and no one's coming to help us, similarly. If mom comes or the primary caregiver comes and we're cooing and we're smiling and we're not getting reflected back because that person, the phone's ringing, the postman's at the door, they're stressed out, they're trying to take care of us, but it's a little on and off. Again, we're sensing the world. And so as we grow up, is one of the questions to ask is, how much do you feel as an adult you're in survival mode, you're just existing, or the world's a safe place? Right? So this is all done unconsciously. So it's kind of buried. But if, as an adult, when you say, so Nina, how do you see the world? Well, there's a lot of crime, there's war going on, there's economic dislocation. I really don't think it's a very safe place. It's not hard for people to articulate, what's going on. I live in a city, there's a lot of crime, there's a lot of theft that's going on in our retail stores right now. The inflation makes it really hard. The world's not a very safe place. That's
and it almost relates to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because at the very base is your safety and your security and your shelter. Well, some people are operating at that level, whereas if you can go up the pyramid of Maslow's hierarchy, self-actualization is right at the tip. So some people are not quite focused on their self-actualization. They're focused on their safety and security. And it can be independent of their physical reality.
Yeah, and it can be so unconsciously embedded that they actually are safe, but when they talk about it, they're talking about this early unconsciousness.
Yes.
This is part of the default.
Yeah.
So from 0 to 10, we get the beliefs and values and principles of family, early education. If we're part of a religious organization, we get the religious beliefs. There's culture norms, there's institutional norms, and then there's a lot of unspoken innuendo that we pick up on. And all of that from 0 to 10 is downloaded without any of our ability to sit and say, you know what, I do believe that, or I don't believe that.
And also children make decisions based on what they observe, and they also make decisions about causality. In other words, they think they are the reason for things happening outside of them, and often they take blame or guilt. You know, if things happen in the family, if the family splits up, you know, oh, I was the cause of that. So that can really trigger people and hinder them from moving forward in life.
Well, that's part of the operating system. And then the other part of the operating system is that children mimic the environment.
Yes.
So if there's a lot of irresponsible anger, if there's a lot of yelling, if there's a lot of dislocation, then maybe they end up being bullies, thinking that's the way they get what they want, right? So we've got this default system that's a part of nature, which is our own DNA.
Yeah.
And it is the ancestral DNA. I think it's at least 7 generations. So if you look at things like alcoholism, rarely at this stage is anyone the first generation of alcohol in their family, right? It tends to come down. That's sort of the nature part. But the nurture part is by far the most powerful. And the nurture part is how we see the world.
True.
So there's fact and there's experience. Most people are communicating their experience as if it were fact. That's not true.
That's right. Fact, analysis, opinion.
So when we look at our culture, right, that is so much about why do we take on this operating default system? We want to fit in. We don't want to be abandoned. We don't want to be, thrown out of the tribe. And so it's all of a fear-based game. And when we're young and we require people so that we survive, we will play to that music.
Yeah.
As we get older and we become self-sufficient, now we have a different opportunity. And this is the transition that I want to get into about an authentic paradigm.
Well, there are known unknowns and there are blind spots. And that's where having a coach or a mentor comes in. Isn't that right? Because often you can't see what your own personal roadblocks are.
Now, yeah. And just try to see your identity. And it's impossible to do on your own. And if you don't believe me, see if you can look in your eyes without a mirror.
Ah, that's right.
Okay. So a lot of who we are is the reflection of others. And again, takes away from what's in our heart, what's in our operating system. And the other thing about paradigms is that they get reinforced and then they get sealed.
Yes.
Right. So a paradigm gets reinforced by repetitive behavior. So if I'm in school and I'm not supposed to talk and I want to be a good boy, then I will repeat sitting in silence. But what that may do is it may leave me invisible. It may mean I don't really have a voice. It may mean that I think to be safe, I don't stick up for myself or have agency because I'm supposed to be the good boy who just plays by the rules.
Right. Yes.
Which it may be that we have a confirmation bias that reinforces a paradigm. So you go out and you buy yourself a brand new black Mustang. And for the first time driving down the highways now, you see every black Mustang that passes by. But you never saw them before because you had a white station wagon.
I know, that's a
Yeah.
common one, isn't it?
Yeah. So this confirmation bias.
Yeah.
There's also this idea of comfort, right? So we hear that in order to grow, what we seek is just outside our comfort zone. But that's risky. So again, wanting to wear that old jacket that feels familiar is so much easier than risking trying something new. Who do we select as friends? Do we select people different than ourselves? Are we someone who's adventurous and wants to look at other cultures and other belief systems, or do we tend to like to stick with our tribe? The more we stick to the tribe, the more we stick to people who believe as we do. This is a religious institution, this is cultural institution, this is family. Well, the more our paradigm gets reinforced. And so the other thing is, do you want to be the smartest person in the room in school? Do you want to raise your hand and always have the answer? Or do you sit back and hide because you want to be the same as everybody else? Right? So all of these kinds of cues and codes keep this paradigm sort of reinforced. And the more we do the same behavior, the more it seals itself. And so part of this growth in being a leader is bringing these unconscious beliefs and values, and principles, behaviors, choices, needs, goals, and how we act from default or reactivity or unconscious to conscious.
The challenge for C-suite leaders is their behavior till now has got them to where they are. So they may not question, do they need to reinvestigate their internal world? What would you say to that?
Well, so one of the things I'm looking for in my counsel is I'm looking for C-suiters under the age of 50. So why am I doing that? It's not that I don't believe 50-year-old people and above could possibly want to change, but they're much more set in their ways. And we're hearing from CEOs today how hard it is to manage 5 generations in a workforce.
Right.
Yeah. So if you were groomed and you are reinforced in hierarchy, in top-down command and control, tell people what to do, at this stage of your career, are you willing? So there is sort of a death and a rebirth that has to happen. I'm not saying that older people won't do it, but I think there's a certain level of security.
So generationally, we're saying not boomers, but Gen X. After Gen X came millennials, and after millennials came Gen Z. Is that right? And what's after Gen Z?
And then you've got baby boomers, and then you've got X's. So you've got all these different, and they all have different values. So young people that were born native to technology.
Yes.
They only want to text. And the last thing they want to do is talk to you on the phone. And older people would love to talk to you on the phone. I love to talk to my kids on the phone. They don't answer. If I text them, instant, I'll get a text back.
Yeah.
Right. So there are these, it's a much more complex kind of a world that we're living in. And so this self-awareness and this ability of understanding others, what's their purpose, their North Star, what's meaningful, what's purposeful, what are they looking for to feel engaged? is a whole different perspective.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now the idea here is, if we can help you to bring your unconscious operating system into the present moment and identify it, you now, in the present moment, this is where your power lives, and you can decide to change. So, for example, you grow up in a house, and here's what you hear about money. Money's dirty, money's bad, people with money take advantage of others. People with money are angry. People with money aren't honorable. They're not honest, right? And they do all kinds of things that we just don't think are good. Another person grows up in a house. Money is good. Money's fungible. Money brings freedom. Money brings opportunity for the family. Money allows me to contribute to causes and areas that I find will make the world a better place.
Yep.
Now, both of those are belief systems that are downloaded into young people. If you got the first one, money's bad, money's dirty, money, blah, blah, blah. By the way, Nina, go out now and make yourself a success. Make a lot of money, do really well. That idea that you can do that with that default system is pretty low.
Yeah.
You see people out there. Have you ever heard of people, they make a lot of money, then they lose a lot of money, then they make a lot of money, then they... That's the default operating system. See, they get beyond it, but ultimately the egoic mind comes back in and says, money's dirty, shouldn't have it. And they saboteur themselves. Yeah. So when you look at what behaviors do you have that sabotage you having this great life? What beliefs have you not realizing your potential? Why did you minimize your goals? So you have a house, and Dad on Friday night tends to stop at the bar before he comes home. And when he comes home, he's very loud. There's a lot of anger. He's a kind of a mean guy when he has too much to drink. Maybe there's some verbal abuse going on. Maybe even some things get thrown around the house and there's a lot of noise. You're a 6-year-old. It's not a very healthy environment. So Mom says, Nina, I'm going to feed you dinner. It's Friday night. Dad will be home in an hour. I'm going to feed you dinner. Once you're done with dinner, I want you to go to your room, and I don't want you to come out till Saturday morning. This is a brilliant strategy for a young girl to be safe and survive.
Yeah.
This is a maladaptive strategy for a young lady who wants to make a name for herself in business, but sees herself as invisible and doesn't have a voice because it wasn't safe.
Yeah.
And there's lots of these kinds of belief system. Imposter syndrome. I'm seeing this all over the internet. Everybody wants to talk to you about imposter syndrome.
Oh, I see.
And who has it? Well, only successful people have imposter syndrome. Unsuccessful people don't think they're imposters at all. Right? And you're laughing. And isn't that funny that someone who has built a track record of success up and up and up thinks that they're a fraud?
It's amazing, isn't it? And I've seen it in myself in the past too. Right? But I think I've kicked that one out the door.
You're in the C-suite and your boss comes to you and says, look, your work is absolutely exceptional. But what I notice about you is that in the peer meetings that we have, that you're invisible. You don't tend to participate. You don't bring your idea to the table. So if you're going to grow, you're going to have to start to put yourself out there. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you think about these topics. It's not that that person doesn't want to do it. Their default operating system says safety is being invisible and not having too much of a voice. So I can do my work and be really successful because I'm away from all those people judging me. Right?
Well, so Dan, we've reached 45 minutes, and that's about the duration of our conversation. So we need to bring it to a close, as much as I'm enjoying it.
Well, this is excellent, because if you want to know more, right, then we are going to be doing some webinars and workshops around the paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And we'd be happy to entertain people coming and attending and seeing if it's right for them.
And if you go back through all the past Dan's episodes, I'll put links to them in the show notes. This will be about episode, 5. We've got another few more on the shelf that we're going to bring forward as well. This will be the 8th I've recorded with you, Dan, and it's a true pleasure. And we're working with a genius here, and a genius with heart. So thank you, Dan, for your time, and it's a real honor to work with you today.
It's a privilege, Nina. Thanks so much for hosting me.
This episode, I was speaking with Dan Silberberg, whose website is entelechy.ai. That's ENTELECHY.ai. Go to the Inspirations tab and you can see past episodes of my conversations with Dan on the Manage Self-Lead Others podcast. If you want to sign up for Dan's newsletter, just head to the call tab on his website. And if you want to sign up for my newsletter, go to brainpowertraining.com.au and you can register for my newsletter. So thanks for listening, and until next time, bye for now.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.